There are tons of techniques when it comes to making stylized textures. The method I'm about to show you combines using a displacement map as a base, sculpting in Blender, and texturing in Substance Painter. I'll start by adding a plane and giving it a subdivision surface modifier. I need a dense mesh to create my high poly base from. To give the subdivision modifier more geometry to work with, I'll manually subdivide the base plane by adding 100 loop cuts. As you can see, the subdivision modifier is rounding off the edges of the plane. To fix that, I'll select the boundary edges and increase their mean crease value to 1. Now I've got perfectly square corners. This step is important because we want to make a seamless texture, and any rounded corners could introduce gaps in the bake later on. I'll add a few more subdivisions and then apply the modifier. Next, I'll add a displace modifier. Let me take a second to explain what I'm going for here. Now I could sculpt individual planks and use them as the base for the bake. I could even sculpt the entire plank floor from scratch, but I don't want to, at least not for the method I want to show you in this video. To skip all those steps entirely, you can just use a displacement texture, which you can download for free from PolyHaven. Using a displacement texture gives me a great starting point and really speeds up the workflow. In the displace modifier, I'll click the new button to create a new texture, then switch over to the texture tab and hit open to load the displacement map I just downloaded. Now, at first glance, it looks like a complete mess. But that's only because the strength of the displace modifier is way too high. Let's lower that value to get something more manageable. Play around with the strength until you get something you like. I prefer this method because not only do I get a perfect base for the texture, but I also end up with some really nice detail variation. This texture was probably photo-scanned, which means the creator captured all those subtle imperfections that fit right in with the style I'm going for. Once I'm happy with the displacement, I'll apply the modifier. I'll switch to Sculpt mode and change the matte cap to something that helps me better read the geometry. Under the auto masking options, I'll enable Mesh Boundary and click on Create Mask. This will add a mask around the edges of the plane, which prevents distortion while sculpting. This helps maintain the seamless property of the texture we're building. I'll start working on the sculpt now. First thing I need to do is soften the edges a bit using the scrape brush. The goal here is to remove any sharp edges from the planks and exaggerate their shapes slightly for a more stylized look. This is actually the most time-consuming part of this method, but depending on your sculpting experience, it's still a faster way to get a strong sculpted base compared to starting from scratch. I won't show the full time-lapse of this part. You know the drill. Let's move on to the next step. After I'm done softening the edges, I'll switch to a wider brush and lower the strength. This will let me gently smooth out the surface of the planks while keeping the medium details, like cracks and knots, intact. I'm not aiming for a hyper-detailed look here. The fine wood grain is too subtle for a stylized texture, so I'll smooth that out while keeping the sculpt readable and bold. Now I'll switch to the clay brush and add a few strokes to carve out some random crevices. I've enabled symmetry for this step to make sure the details at the ends of the sculpt wrap around cleanly. This helps maintain a seamless tiling texture. The clay brush is my go-to tool for creating stylized wood grain, but don't feel limited to just that. If you have the Blender Kit add-on installed, there are plenty of great sculpting brushes available for free. Exploring those can help you get better results and often much faster. Now that I'm done with the wood grain, I'll switch back to the scrape brush to dial back some of the detail, keeping only the most prominent shapes. This helps simplify the surface and pushes the stylized look even further. Next, I'll use the crease brush to break up the repeating plank pattern. I'll carve in the gaps between each plank to really define them. Once those separations are in place, I'll refine the edges using either the trim or scrape brush to give them a slightly chipped, hand-carved feel. I sculpted the nails directly into the high poly sculpt, but looking back, it probably would have been smarter to add them later in Substance Painter. I ended up painting them manually in Painter, which turned out to be a bit of a tedious step, and one I could have easily avoided. As a final touch, I'll use the grab brush to add some subtle bumps and distort the plank lines a bit. This helps break up the perfect symmetry and gives the sculpt a more organic, handmade feel. I've exported a basic plane from Blender, to serve as the texture plane for baking the mesh maps. Then, I loaded the high poly sculpt I made earlier as the high poly mesh. You might notice some red spots showing up. That's a visual indicator that certain areas of the high poly mesh won't bake properly. This usually means the ray distance is set too low. To fix this, just increase the ray distance until those red areas disappear. Once they're gone, you're good to go. Now I'll bake the default mesh maps. I won't include the ID map since it's not needed for this project, but I will include the height map. We'll be using that later. After the bake is done, I'll quickly check to make sure everything turned out as expected. This time, I won't be using my usual stylized smart material. Instead, I'll show you how to build your own version from the ground up. Let's start by adding a fill layer as our base. I'll turn off all the unnecessary channels for now, just leaving color and roughness. Since planks aren't usually smooth or reflective, I'll raise the roughness value. Remember, black means smooth, white means rough. Next, I'll pick a base color for the planks. Feel free to choose any tone that fits your project. Next, I'll duplicate the base layer and add a black mask to the top one. I'll also change its base color to something contrasting so I can better see what I'm doing. A black mask hides everything by default and only reveals what's painted or generated in lighter values. To create the mask, I'll add a fill layer inside it and choose a noise generator. I'm going for smooth, cloud-like transitions to give the material a natural gradient. This helps simulate varying aging and breaks up any monotony. Make sure to turn on tiling in the noise settings so the texture remains seamless. Once I found a mask result that I liked, I went back and adjusted the color to something with a softer contrast. I didn't want a harsh or aggressive jump between tones, just a subtle variation to give the material more depth. I repeated the process once more, but this time I changed the generator's seed value to get a different mask. I also picked a darker tone for this layer to add a bit more variation and richness to the material. Next, I'll add another fill layer and a black mask. For the mask generator, I'll choose the dirt generator. It's great for simulating dirt accumulation in crevices. I'll lower the grunge amount since I only want subtle, flat values mainly concentrated in the recessed areas. I'll leave the layer color in black and white, but change the blending mode to multiply. This way, the layer always darkens the colors underneath, no matter their tone. It's a super flexible approach, especially when iterating. Just remember, the darker your base color, the stronger the darkening effect. Next, I'll add a layer for edge damage. For the mask, I'm using the metal edge wear generator. It's perfect for creating a tight, worn edge effect. I'll set the blending mode to divide, which works like multiply but in reverse. The darker the base color, the lighter the effect. When I initially set up the material, I mostly keep these layers in black and white. However, later on, once most of the material stack is complete, I usually switch back to using color for these layers if I need more control. Next, I'm adding another edge layer, but this time with a smoother transition. For the mask, I'm using the curvature generator, which uses the baked curvature map to detect edges and crevices. I'll adjust the mask so it only affects the edges and smooth out the gradient. This helps create that subtle rubbed, worn look, like the kind of wear you see where people keep stepping on the same spot repeatedly. I added a few more layers to give the texture even more character, but I'll leave the rest up to you to experiment with now that you know the basics. If you want to dive deeper into this material setup, I'll be uploading the project files to my Gumroad page for free, so make sure to grab them and test things out yourself. Oh, and about those nails I mentioned earlier, I ended up sculpting them into the high poly mesh, but looking back, it would have been smarter to add them only in Substance Painter. I had to paint each nail manually in the texture, which wasn't a huge deal, but skipping sculpting them would have saved me some time. After importing the texture to Blender, I checked if the tiling was still intact. That's when I noticed I forgot to block out the edges of the base plane from being affected by the generators, which messed up the seamless tiling. Now there are repeating lines along the edges. I could go back to Painter and fix it properly, but let me show you a quicker fix if you're in a pinch. First, import the base color texture into Photoshop. Then go to View and enable Pattern Preview. This will give you a live tiling preview of your texture. Then go to Filter, Other, Offset. This will let you shift the texture horizontally and vertically. Since I'm working with a 2K texture, I'll set the horizontal and vertical offset to 1024 pixels. That way, the edges of the texture move to the center of the canvas, making it easy to spot and fix any visible seams. Here's the best part. Grab the rectangular marquee tool and select just the area around the visible seam. Try to stay as tight to the seam as possible without cutting off any nearby detail. Next, go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. This opens a new window where your selection appears on the left and a live preview on the right. You'll already get a sense of how well the seam will be patched. If you're not happy with the initial result, try adjusting the sampling area or tweaking the fill settings. After a few tries, I got a satisfying result, and whatever small artifacts were left, I just cleaned up by hand. Here's the difference between the version with the fix and the one without it. Just remember to offset your texture back to its original position afterward. Otherwise, you'll get a mismatch between your base color, normal map, and other texture maps. And this is how the texture looks once it's done. Now, I know there are a lot of different methods out there for creating stylized textures. This is just one approach. I'll probably cover more techniques and workflows in future videos, so make sure to subscribe if you're interested in that. If you want to check out the final material and high poly sculpt, there's a link in the description to my Gumroad page. Lots of free goodies there. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.